Richard, do you think estate agency is one-sided, where we only represent the sellers? Talk to me.
As opposed to the buyers. Absolutely, I think there's a huge opportunity here, Chris, and I don't mean with any sort of conflict of interest at all. Of course, we normally represent our sellers, our client, the seller, and the idea is to represent their best interest. But in a way, there's a whole other side to the business that I think most of the industry has completely ignored, that is actually really profitable, and it gets you instructions, can get you instructions as well. It's a bit sort of gamekeeper turned poacher, if you like. But frankly, the job that we do in representing sellers, we use negotiation skills, persuasion, closing skills, negotiation skills, sales progression skills. It's all exactly the same. It's just instead of folding your arms like that, it's folding your arms like that. It's a bit uncomfortable to begin with, but it's basically the same thing. And the opportunity here is, well, several opportunities. Firstly, in getting an instruction, a regular instruction, why not offer the potential seller and say, actually, Mr. Seller, I know we're a bit more expensive than some of our competitors. However, what we'll happily do, as well as representing your best interest in your capacity as a seller, why don't we represent you in your capacity as a buyer? So in other words, we'll help you buy the next property, not only progress the sale and everything, but get it as cheaply as possible using our negotiation skills to do that. With the exception, if it's one of our properties, then obviously we can't represent you in that instance. And if it's another part of the country, we can do that on the phone. So that's quite a good way just of helping you get the instruction and justifying a higher fee. And it genuinely has value, and you can say, frankly, the amount we'd save you will more than cover our fee anyway. But the second opportunity, if you look at people who represent buyers, you obviously Phil Spencer, but I'm thinking of Henry Pryor particularly, a very well-known buyer's agent. And in order for a buyer's agent to get clients, they've kind of got to advertise for it or wait for referrals to come through. Whereas estate agents have loads of buyers because the properties that you have advertised bring in buyers. So it's only a small step to sell your buyer representation services to those buyers. Now, according to my research at the moment, estate agents only sell to about 5 or 6% of the registered buyers. The rest of them, you just have to wave goodbye to, because the only reason you haven't sold to them is you don't happen to have the right property on your books. So why not offer to represent them as well? Select the right people, the people who maybe they're cash rich, time poor, they live some distance away, they don't want to have to schlep over here every weekend when you could be helping them. It may be an elderly lady, for example, and her son would help her, but he lives in Australia, so you need to be like his son. A first-time buyer. I've had first-time buyers where the parents have insisted that they have some form of representation. So lots of types of people would benefit from it. You don't have to source properties for them. They can go online and they can see what they like, and they can then phone you and say, Richard, I've seen this online, what do you think? If they live away, you can say, actually, it's a great house or it's a rubbish house, or would you like me to go and check it out for you? You'd certainly go with them on second viewings. And then, so if they see a property,
charge for that, would you?
well, yeah, I mean, the way I would charge would be to charge, let's say, 15% of the difference between the asking price and the price you negotiate for them. So you wouldn't need to charge a retainer in the traditional way. But the other opportunity here is, if they've seen a property they like that's not in your books, of course, because you can't represent them in that instance, they've seen a property on somebody else's books, you then phone the agent to make the appointment for that buyer to see that property. And that agent can say one of two things. When you phone Jackson Stocks, let's say, and say, hello, it's Richard here from Rawlings Agency. I've got a buyer that I think will be interested in that house you're marketing up the road. Could I arrange for them to see it, please? Don't worry, I'm not after any commission. They should say, yes, Richard, of course, that's great. You've got a good buyer. By all means, bring them round. We still make our commission, and we end up working with a fellow negotiator in the property industry to get this sale through. Everybody happy. A more small-minded agent would say, well, you're not getting my buyer around my commission. They wouldn't want to know. In which case, you're quite within your rights to go knock on the door and say, hello, Mr. Seller, Richard Rawlings here. Sorry, don't worry, I'm not after any commission, but I've got a buyer who I think will be perfect for your house. He'd like to see it. I tried to make an appointment for him to see it through your agent, but they wouldn't let us in. So there's a nice little bit of stirring going on. So that's slightly upsetting the relationship between that seller and their agent, and it gets you through the door. So, well, can I show them around anyway? Don't worry, I'm not after any commission. And so that can either help you get the instruction, or at least help that buyer in that instance. So I think there's lots of opportunities here, and the good agents I know at the moment are actually offering this service anyway. So if you think about it, how particularly with millennials, it's a much more generous environment. And if you think about it, when you sell one of your own properties, you get the you get the fee, and you get the glory and the referrals and the recommendations and the board and everything. But what if you were to offer somebody else's property, even if you didn't get a fee, and they buy it? Well, you get the glory and the recommendation and the referrals, you just wouldn't get the fee. So we work in relatively small areas. It's a great way of ramping up your reputation, and many times you'll get a fee out of it as well. So there's a lot involved in buyer representation. Give me a shout if you need a hand with it. But I'd say there's a big opportunity.
How do people contact you?
My website, estateagencyinsight.co.uk.
Excellent.
So no, it's good stuff.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you, Richard.